This Karen in the story is deranged. You'll see what I mean. How does she try to even pull this off? It's called I Wanted This House by Cats Are Nice Death. Almost 30 years ago, my dad retired from the army. That's important to the story. And we all moved from the barracks to an entirely different county. Not overly fun for me or my sister because she just joined secondary school and didn't want to leave her friends behind, and I just didn't want to move again. If you're not familiar with the British Army, soldiers used to get posted places, invariably places like Germany, Switzerland, Cyprus, etc. It was 50-50 of if the whole family was posted with them, depending on how long they were away for. By the time I was 8, we'd already moved at least 4 times that I can remember. Anyway, the MOD, Ministry of Defense, used to have old soldiers' quarters in places, and when the barracks in the areas no longer needed them, retired soldiers and families would get first dibs on the houses. Mom and Dad found this house, and we set about packing up again and moving again, but this time for good. Yeah! About 6 months after we'd moved, we'd almost made it out on our own and had some family friends over for dinner. We're all in the dining room, an actual room separate from the kitchen and living room. I was amazed, I'd never seen one. And we were sitting down to eat, and I mean all of us. Grandparents had 2 cars, 3 sets of friends were 3 cars, we were 1 car, so it was very obvious from the outside that the house is not empty and a lot of people are there. Dad looks up from eating and his jaw drops. There is a woman just wandering around the garden. She's sniffing the flowers, looking in the windows, and generally behaving as if the house was a horse for sale, checking its metaphorical teeth. It wasn't even as if she could have just walked down the side of the house into the back garden. She would have had to unlock and open 3 gates. So Dad goes out with a couple of his friends, which were all ex-army and rugby types. They're big guys, hard to miss. And this woman glances at them, this Karen, and then continues poking about the garden and trying to get into the shed. Dad shouts, "What do you think you're doing?" She says, "Well, I'm looking at the garden," bold as brass. The friends say, "Yeah, we see that. Why?" "Look, what are you doing here? This is my house. Get off of my property. Who do you think you are?" She just shrugs and says, "My son was going to buy this house. I want this house. I wanted to see what I could do with the garden when he buys it." Dad stares. "What the heck do you mean? When he buys it? It's not for sale. I live here." "No, you don't. My son wanted to buy this house." "Mate, we're going to check on the families and call the police. You okay with her?" "Yeah, just make sure the kids stay inside." And to the woman he says, "Get the heck off of my property." "It's not yours. It's mine. I live here," she replies. By this point, we've opened the window to get a proper listen, and Mom has lost her crap. It's a proper mama bear reaction. Her 2 babies are inside, along with 6 other kids that she's known their whole lives. She flies out the door. She shouts, "Get the heck off of my property. Get away from my husband and get away from here." "Calm down, love. It's okay. Go inside. I'll get rid of her." The woman with 0 sense of self-preservation says, "Who do you think you are? This is my house. Get away from me, you crazy fat bee." Dad has to grab Mom on the way past before she ends this woman. I don't want some sort of unhinged woman in my house. Get off of my property." Thankfully, the police arrive and escort the woman off the property, telling Dad to invest in locks for the gates. Dad's turn to lose his crap. He explains, loudly, at length to police that this woman had to unlock a few gates and shows him how the woman got in. As they're getting her to the car, she declared that she'll get us out of her house. It's her son's house. She lives here and she'll get us out. Dad tells the police that he's pressing charges, and the woman's tone changes. Suddenly, it's not her son's house at all. She didn't mean any of it. She's very sorry. She can't be charged. I don't know what came of it in the end. Mom and Dad wouldn't tell us, but I still remember trying to work out if she was crazy or what. But either way, we still live in the house, and we all still love it. It's got a dining room. My boss stole my Super Bowl tickets, so I made him lose a major client, posted by Branson on. I'm a huge 49ers fan. I mean, the rabid all-day tailgate in the parking lot type. A few years ago, we made it back to the Super Bowl. I was working at a consulting firm with a handful of accounts that I would interact with directly. One client in particular knew how big of a Niners fan I was. I was the day-to-day lead on his account. He really liked working with me, and we became friends, often grabbing drinks or dinner after our meetings. He had access to a pair of extra company seats to the game, and as a thank you, wanted to give them to me as a gift. He passed the tickets over to the partner on that account, who I will refer to as Jerkhead Partner, to be given to me as a surprise. The game came and went. We lost, it sucked. The next time we met, we went to drinks afterward, and he mentioned, "Hey, by the way, why didn't you go to the game? I heard someone else was in your seats." I asked, "What game?" He said, "The Super Bowl." Confused, I answered, "I didn't have seats to the Super Bowl." He told me that he gave Jerkhead Partner a pair of his company tickets for me as a gift so I could attend. I had zero idea what he was talking about. He looked shocked, told me to quietly ask around about it and get back to him. When I was back in the office the next week, I found out through one of the secretaries that Jerkhead Partner had given a pair of Super Bowl tickets to another one of his clients as a gift from our company. I might have let this sort of thing go to keep the peace under different circumstances, but these were seats on the 30-yard line to see the freaking 49ers play in the Super Bowl. I was ticked. I considered confronting Jerkhead Partner myself, but I realized that it was a client who had noticed that I wasn't there in the first place, so if I let him handle it, there would be no blowback on me. So I texted him, "Oh hey, I just wanted to thank you so much for thinking of me with those seats. It appears that they were given to another one of our firm's clients." He texted back right away in all caps, "Are you kidding me?" And then, "Pretend I never told you, let me handle it." He followed up with me about formulating a plan. A few days later, we were asked to come down for a meeting in their office. The client requested the partner be present, not entirely unusual, so Jerkhead Partner and I hopped a flight the next week and headed over to their office. Little did Jerkhead Partner know, my client had orchestrated a wonderfully awkward little show to catch him red-handed. When we entered the conference room, it was all the usual suspects, along with a woman in her 30s we didn't recognize. My client immediately introduces, "Jerkhead Partner, this is Stephanie such and such, VP from this other department. She wanted to sit in on this meeting. Hey, OP, you guys must already know her from the Super Bowl." She then responds as she goes to shake my hand. Oh, I don't think so. Did we meet there? I'm sorry if I forgot." Client responds, "Geez, Steph, how much did you have to drink? They were sitting right next to you." Client looks at me and says, "Sorry, client, I wasn't there. Are you thinking of someone else?" At this point, Jerkhead Partner is looking visibly uncomfortable, probably trying to come up with an excuse. He starts in with an, when Stephanie says over him, "No, so-and-so from other company were in the other seats. By the way, I was wondering why we gave company seats to those guys. Is there a project that we're working on with them that I don't know about?" Obviously not. They were in completely different industries. It would be like Coca-Cola partnering with John Deere. Jerkhead Partner lets out an, "Oh," again, and the client immediately speaks over him, asking, "Jerkhead Partner, I gave you those seats for OP?" At this point, Jerkhead Partner is turning bright red. He responds, well, he wasn't able to make it, so he must have given the seats away to someone else," and turns to me, looking for me to cover for him. Client smirks at me. I respond, "What are you talking about? Client, you gave me tickets to the Super Bowl?" Client suddenly raises his voice. "Jerkhead Partner, those tickets were a personal thank you gift from me to OP. Did you give them away to someone else? Was it another client?" Jerkhead Partner butts in with, maybe they, I don't know, got mixed up somewhere in the office?" Client went quiet for what probably seemed like an eternity to Jerkhead Partner. He then looked down, grabbed his portfolio and iPad, put them into his briefcase, and said, "I think this meeting is over. OP, it seems as if I owe you a thank you gift. Let's go to lunch. Stephanie, you're welcome to join. Jerkhead Partner, I need to evaluate our relationship. Please go back home and expect to hear from us next week." Jerkhead Partner suggests he would like to join, presumably to do damage control, and Stephanie sternly tells him, "I don't think that's a good idea," and asks the front desk to see Jerkhead Partner out. As soon as he is in the elevator, we all break out laughing hysterically. Stephanie wasn't really a VP, just an employee at the company who client had drafted into helping with his pre-planned meeting skit, but she did end up coming to lunch with us and was a fellow Niners fan and a total blast to hang out with. On our way to the restaurant, I got a desperate text from Jerkhead Partners saying that I needed to cover for the firm and that we could discuss things when I got back. I replied, "Yeah, we need to talk, but I'll see what I can do." Client told me to wait a couple hours and then respond to him. 1. to expect invoices for the resale value of the Super Bowl tickets, and resale is way above face value. It was over $10,000. As well as our lunch, he picked a pricey spot and made a big show of overspending, and that he expected them to be paid immediately. 2. Expected I be given a direct apology. 3. Expected a written apology to his company for what he considered theft. And 4. He will only interact with me or another one of our firm's partners, never Jerkhead partner. This whole thing caused a stir with the other partners and actually came off looking great because it appeared that I had made a good faith effort to save the client for the firm despite being the victim in this situation. The client would transfer to another partner, which meant Jerkhead partner lost his profit share on any work with them. Oh, and the other partners in the firm made Jerkhead partner pay the invoices back out of his salary. In retrospect, I really have no idea what the heck this guy was thinking. Did he seriously believe the client would just not notice me not thanking him for Super Bowl tickets? Anyway, the well was kind of poisoned for me there long term because Jerkhead partner wasn't going anywhere. I left the firm a few months later for a much better position. Client ultimately terminated their relationship with that firm a year later, and he actually now works with a good friend of mine at a competing firm. I'm still ticked that I missed out on the Super Bowl, even though we lost, hoping that we make it back this year so I can finally go to one in person. Go Niners! Young firefighter disrespects a lieutenant, so I shame him and get him to quit. Posted by Eric Smith 98105. I'm not sure if this is pro or not, but I got revenge on a D-bag I used to volunteer firefight with. This was in the early to mid 2000s. I decided to go to the local fire department as a volunteer firefighter. I did it for about 5 years, and it was great. Training consisted of 3 months of fire training, 2 nights a week and all day Saturday, and then you would go to EMT training, which is another 3 months of training. I was about a year and was asked to help train some new recruits. One of the lieutenants, Amy, was a short, middle-aged woman who was so full of fire that she could make a grown man cry. One of those people who commands both fear and respect wherever she went. Honestly, a great lieutenant and a great person. When she wasn't being a drill sergeant, she was extremely kind and generous. She would often bake people cakes and treats and deliver them to the various stations in our department. However, in this new academy class that I was asked to help with, there was a cocky kid that we'll call Aaron. Aaron talked big during the training and acted like he was the all-American hero, like he was going to be the lead bad A in Backdraft 2. He performed moderately well in training, but far from the top of the class. He gets assigned to Amy's station, which is a pretty quiet station in the department. A few months after he starts, Amy swings by my station one night to say hi. She brings us the Motherload cake from Claim Jumper, which is a massive 6-layer cake. She explained that she had treated her crew to a night out at Claim Jumper, which must have cost a lot of money. I think she took out about 8 people and bought a whole cake to top it all off. They had eaten the first 2 layers, so she gave us the remaining 4. We thanked her profusely when she left. Back then, the big social media platform was MySpace, and I decided to look up some of the people in the department to make friends. I came across Aaron's page, and I noticed some photos of him and the rest of the crew at Claim Jumper with Amy. However, when I read the comments, he bragged about how he had purposefully ordered the most expensive dinner, appetizers, and drinks since Amy was buying. He bragged about how he was going to take advantage of her, quote, stupidity. This alone ticked me off because she was doing this super nice and generous. What an ungrateful, selfish jerk. Then I read the rest of his profile. He had videos and memes on his page glorifying himself as a bad A firefighter, bragging about running into burning buildings and how he was such a hero. He was flirting with girls, blatantly trying to impress them with how brave he is. Bear in mind, he just graduated from the academy 3 months prior and hadn't even gone to EMT school. He had never been to a house fire, and all he basically did was carry gear for the other fully qualified firefighters. It was too much for me to tolerate. So, here is the revenge. I printed off copies of his MySpace page, including his comments about Amy and toxic bragging. I made multiple copies and took them to every station in the department. We all had pagers, I'm old, and a small keyboard at each station to send out text messages. I made an anonymous, all-staff page to everyone in the department. I had to keep it brief since I couldn't fit a ton of characters, but I sent out his MySpace info and told everyone about how he treated Amy. Within an hour, Aaron had cleared out his MySpace page of all posts, photos, and so on. A couple of days later, he deleted his account. It's a good thing I made so many copies. Immediately after this happened, he stopped coming to volunteer, and a few weeks later, I heard that he had quit. I later talked to Amy and admitted that I was the one who sent the page. I told her I hated how he treated her, and she thanked me. She seemed really sad and hurt by what he had done, but being the tough short lady that she was, she quickly got back into being an actual bad A firefighter. She later started dating and married a fire chief that also helped at the academy. I've lost touch with her, but I hope she did well. She seemed pretty happy when I last saw her. And by the way, I can't stop laughing about how this story ignited a firestorm about Claim Jumper's motherlode cake. Karen thinks she owns my property. I make her regret messing with me. Click the video on your screen. You don't want to miss a fallout of this one, and I'll see you there.